So,
How are you?
hi, how you doing today?
Good, Joseph. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How was the week?
The week was very interesting. Very interesting, but particularly yesterday and today.
Oh, really? We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
but
later.
We got a pressing
Subject?
topic we've been started on.
All right.
Before we get started, I would like to introduce one scripture.
Okay.
Okay, and that scripture, very well known. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality, spiritual wickedness in high places. I'm going to stop it right there. In the scripture, it's telling us that we're not wrestling against actual blood. We're not really warring against each other, but we're actually warring against ourselves. And what it was saying, the word principalities, if you look at that word principalities, the plural version of principles, which meaning foundational rules. If we set in our lives the foundational rules, which we obtain from experiencing guidance from our learned behaviors, we set our own boundaries. That's where our boundaries start.
Okay.
That's where they are starting to be set in. And then from that point is when we can expand our boundaries and contract our boundaries depending on our experiences.
Okay.
Now, let's go into our subject that we are speaking of. What happens in the home,
stays in the house, or see something, say something.
Very rooted in tradition. Now, I spoke to you earlier. The reason for it was these nice governmental people wanted to decide that they wanted to run our households.
Okay.
So anytime that they felt like they could get an edge on us, they would look for it. So with let me just go ahead and say
I was just about to say.
Let's stop being this. Let's just take my hair down and let's go for it. African Americans tend to spank their children, and that was one thing that the government at times was against. And this is more on our local basis,
right?
That these governmental issues came up, and they wanted to take kids out of the home. So they heard that you got spankings. They was ready to
extract you.
Like my grandmother said, send the white man over to knocking on her door. And you better not get the white man to come knocking on my door. And that's basically what it was.
Right.
So we decided, instead of you running your mouth telling about the spanking that you know you deserve, that stays in the house.
Right.
But the problem happened when other things happened in the house. That should not happen in the house. We're talking about molestation, rape, all kinds of things.
Right.
And so that allowed those
abuse,
basically abuse. It allowed the enemy to act in that way and disrupt our community altogether.
Right.
And because we had this rule of not saying anything, everyone just closed their mouth and looked the other way. The cycle kept going on and on.
Okay.
And then hurt people. So these people that were hurt,
that's something good right there. Hurt people.
These people that were hurt decided that this was it. I'm okay. I'm okay. Let's do this to my niece, my nephew, my son, my daughter.
Right.
And it kept on going on and on.
Right. And that's what's funny, because now you get to the point where with these effects happening, well, let me say with these situations occurring, the effects were trickled down. It got you to the point where when you went outside the home, because you couldn't speak of what happened in the home, it caused you to act in a fake manner. I'm just
okay.
go there. You ended up having to put on a facade so that you knew something was going on, but nobody else could really tell it because you got out there and you got in where you fit in, and you played that part. I mean, we all actors at some point, like we were saying in the last show. We all play that actor's role, but we found out at some point, someone in that realm found out that wasn't conducive for the individual that they were trying to become. So the cycle had to be broken. So how did the cycle get broken? And that's where we were starting to go to.
The how?
Like, do we say something? Could we seen something? Do we say something, or do we continue to what's done in the house?
We have to say something.
Okay.
As a community, we have to say something.
As an individual, why I have
to? Well, as an individual, we have to say something. But as a whole, we have to show that it is culturally okay to say something.
Why culturally? And the reason why I asked that is because when we were talking on this last week, we had gotten to the point where we were talking about how if we do say something, then we have to end up getting to, I can't remember verbatim, but I do remember that we were both coming from different angles, but we were kind of saying the same thing. But it's like, if you see something and say something, it's going to cause that one effect. Is that person really ready? When we got the bullying, remember we were talking about bullying and running and things of that nature. It's like, how do you know? Because I'll share this. In my molestation, when I finally brought it to the forefront, if I could go back and change that, I would. Because it really wasn't so much as to condemn the individual as it was for me personally. I just wanted to know, what was it? What happened in your life that caused, and then I wanted an apology, which I probably never get, and I'm okay with that now. I mean, at first it bothered me, but all of that being said, it caused me, and I just spoke on this on yesterday, it caused me to, it affected my relationships going forward.
With everyone.
With everyone. People, like I say, you put on this facade, now that we got it all on the table, you put on this facade, but then you get into these relationships, whether it's friendship, sexual, partnership, whatever the case may be. When you start getting into these relationships, you don't even realize sometimes that you're building up what could be a wall. You're putting it. I wrote something very profound this morning, and I said, for society to understand where you are, they put you in this box so they can understand it. Or did we put ourselves in the box and blame society for being in that box?
I think it goes both ways.
Exactly.
And I think it depends on the individual.
Exactly.
Again, you speak of being molested. I was raped. Okay. And with my rape, I felt that I could take care of myself or whatever, and didn't tell anyone for years. And then I look at the trickle effects of what happened because I held this in. I started not to trust people. Also, my viewpoint of sex is not inside relationships all the time. And all of these things happen because we didn't say something. I believe the part of saying something is not to always lock up every individual, lock up everyone. You know, We can't put everyone in bars. We all have sin. We have all trespassed beyond the boundaries that
That's
we
why
should
I said
have.
I would have did it different if I knew better then. It was more of the hurt that consumed me because it wasn't so much of being mad at the individual,
You know
more
what
than it was.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what could if my life, if this hadn't happened, had my life would have been like
It's
this,
a forgiveness of yourself still.
Okay, before we even get to that point, because you have these thoughts that lead up to it.
Mm-hmm.
You have the thoughts of, first, was it something I did that brought this on to me?
Mm-hmm.
Was it, what's wrong
Is it
with
something
me?
that I wore?
Yeah, and what's wrong with me, this, that, and the third. And then when what's done in the house stays in the house, you can't talk to anyone. Mm-hmm. So you left with yourself of finding these answers.
You left to counsel your own self.
So then you end up doing something that I did, fake suicide. But some people actually go through with the real deal. I mean, so I can identify with individuals that want to try to kill themselves because it's like, you don't want to deal with this. But God saw different. He gave me this and allowed me to go through it to help someone who may not be as strong as I didn't even give myself credit for being strong to get through it.
Well, we overcome by the words of our testimony. So if someone can see a light, if someone sees that you found the light after the situation, that can give them that push that I can go another day with this. I can go another day. And another problem that we have, and I'm not even going to say this one as black. I'm not going to blame this on the black community.
The board,
I'm going to blame this on economics. In the lower economic status, we are not able to deal with mental health issues. We have a lot of times where counseling should have been done, things should have been talked about, but because of, I'm gonna blame it on income. We don't seek out qualified counselors. We don't have set up qualified counselors in the church as we know it. We have people that want to tell you, I love this one. You horny? Oh, go take a cold shower, baby. Get that off of you. Mm-hmm. We have people that, just pray about it. Mm-hmm. There's so much I can pray. I cannot pray to God and be able to listen on concepts that I have never heard of. You have to be taught certain things have to be taught, and you have to be given tools to be able to pray about a situation and get through it.
But if you don't, how can you get to that point? And I think this is going to be intricate for those that's listening, because you seem to have kind of jumped to the solution versus the avenue to get to that solution. Because it's if you're not exposed to that, if you don't know that,
that's what we're here for.
Right, that's
what we're here for.
So it's like, how do you get to what you're talking about now? Because, I mean, again, the tools have always been there.
Let's take a station break. Let's do this. If there's anyone who needs help on these kind of things, we are here. Mm-hmm. The Church of the Misfits has trained staff. If I don't have the training, I can absolutely refer you to the right people that have training in both spiritual and education to help you get through and give the tools.
Yeah.
We're here for it. Now back to our conversation. So if you do need help, reach out to us. Now back to our conversation. Yes, those tools have to be, you have to be educated. You don't have to learn how to use it. A good thing with therapists is they are not there to tell you what to do. They're
Make
there
you go within
to
yourself.
look inside yourself, reflect, and find out your options that you have.
Because again, you missed that gap.
Okay, let's fill that gap.
I'm coming from the experience side of it, as well as where I think some of the viewers may come with some of the questions. I mean, we like I spoke on it earlier. You have those issues. You got this one umbrella hanging over your head that says what's done in the house stays in the house. But then you go out here with your friends and you have to act a certain kind of way to reflect that you're what stays in the house. So I had a friend, I broke the what's done in the house stay in the house, and that's where I was getting at. You have to find that one individual, that if it's more than one, but at least that one person that you feel you can trust. He's deceased now, but I told him what was going on. He hid me sometimes. He went past his own parents' rules of letting me spend a night so that I wouldn't have to go back or be found at this time, and breaking my own mother rules because I was supposed to be in the house at a certain time. So I'm not even letting you know that I ain't even coming home. I just take the punishment when I get home the next day, where I was, this, that, and the third. That's what got me through it. I mean, every case may be personable to that individual, but the bottom line is they got to get past that fear of whatever is keeping them bound to this what's done in the house, stay in the house thing. They have to get past that fear and either approach the individual or say something to someone that they could trust. Then the tools can be used and made accessible to them.
I got you.
So that they can go there. I mean,
okay, I see where you're.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, because the gap was they're not under. They hear what I'm saying, then they hear the end results, but it's like I could feel somebody out there saying, "Well, Warren, what did you do since you're speaking from experience? How did you get from where you're speaking of to what Joseph is speaking about?" And it's you gonna have to get to that point where you're gonna have to say something.
In each of our examples, you being molested, it was your veil, your clout, the thing that hid you from telling anyone was that principle of what stays in the house, what happens in the house stays in the house. On mine, being raped as a young man is a masculinity. I feel like it was more of a masculinity shame process.
Ooh, see now you going there.
But both of them,
y'all want it, ain't it?
but both of them you have to cross
that boundary.
That boundary. You have to.
Here we go.
You have to learn that if I go past this boundary, it's still safe on the other side.
Exactly. You got to trust that it's gonna be all right on that.
And the other one
I was scared. I ain't gonna lie.
The other thing is, if we go back to our family units, and I'm not going to describe a family unit. Whatever you consider a family is a family. We have to have talking done amongst the family.
But isn't that kind of more like an easier said than done?
It is
because we made it through kind of thing. Because I can hear some people out there saying,
it is easier said than done. But I'll tell you this: my family dynamic and everyone I consider family, I come to them and I talk to them, and you're gonna
don't have that.
No. I know everyone doesn't have that, but I'm saying it takes an effort. I didn't have that. I had to push past that boundary and start it myself. And I asked every one of them, "How you doing?" Nah, just don't tell me you're okay. Tell me what's really going on. What issues are going on? What's happening in your life? I start off with a show. How are you doing?
So let's take the flip side of that. That's your dynamic. My dynamic would be anytime you go to family members on our side, it would be one of those things where you were told as a boy you're not supposed to cry.
There's that masculinity again.
Yeah, that whole masculinity thing.
Shame thing.
And then it was one of those things that when you did say something, it was like, oh, you tough, suck that up, this, that, and the third, or you can handle this, or it was always to make you laugh, to kind of mask over that whole thing. But like I said, with my father not being there, I got teased about it amongst my siblings and everything. They didn't realize the severity of how that bothered me.
No, wait a minute. Now, I know why you said it that way, but I need you to explain this.
What you mean?
You said with your father not being there. What's going on? Was there anyone else? Any other male figures there?
What do you mean? Nah, we have mostly women.
Okay.
So it's like my siblings had their father.
There you go. That's why I wanted you to say.
Yeah, my siblings had their father. That even my younger brother, for the first 10 years that I know, I thought his father was my father.
Okay.
Till I met my real biological father. So that started the trickle down effect.
So you didn't experience like some kids experience, not just being raised in a one parent home. You had a one parent home and a 2-parent home on the side, where your siblings had that extra father, had the father, but you didn't have a father that was yours.
I didn't have one that was mine. I borrowed my younger brother's father because I didn't really know my older sisters and brothers' fathers, but I knew that they had him. I remember going to one of their father's funerals and things of that nature. But it was just one of those things where I didn't realize how much that affected me, and then later in life having to learn that because of, I wouldn't call it a rejection, because he did show up at one point, but he ended up dying. So everyone that came into my life that I tried to look at as a father figure, they ended up either leaving on their own accord or they died. And that's where that whole trickle down effect started. And once and where I was gonna go with this whole the help that they need, they have to first identify what that problem is, because a lot of times we don't even know.
We don't.
Yeah, we don't know.
I didn't know. I didn't realize the severity of my issue while I was going through it. I thought I was fine. I thought everything would be okay.
Accepted it, kept moving.
It's life.
In the back of your mind,
that saying, it's life. Just go ahead and just deal with it. No, I dealt with it, but I didn't deal with it.
Exactly.
I put sand over it and just went on the side and act like it's not there. It's like tooth infection. Tooth infection. Oh, I know my tooth is hurting, but I don't have the means to fix it, so I'm just gonna let it go. And then more and more things happen.
Aspirin in it. Put a, like they say, put a Band-Aid on it and keep it moving. And that's basically what we go through life doing. We put Band-Aids on it and don't address the full issue.
Well, it's about that time. I'm about to issue another challenge.
It gets too bad.
I'm about to issue a challenge.
When we get to it.
Let's examine our Band-Aids. Let's examine.
I like the way you put that.
Let's examine those things that we have not totally fixed in our life.
They put little different stuff on different Band-Aids.
And they got different sizes, Band-Aids. You can get the little cute one.
You get the one that go across your finger.
Yeah. One that go
in between the finger. Yeah.
But let's examine these Band-Aids. And I'm not saying just let's not rip them. Let's make sure that everyone's just not going to rip out Band-Aids exposed problem. But
no, let's not say that, because some
may have to.
Some may have that boldness to rip it off.
Some may just need to.
All out. I'll be that one you would need to talk to for that, because that was me. I took them all off. And didn't realize I was bleeding everywhere. Just like
I took them off, and I took the scabs and everything with them. Yeah. But watch how you're doing. choose your own way of examining your band-aids, because we got to get the healing process in there. And I've heard
you can't heal what you don't reveal.
You don't heal what you don't know is broken. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I like that. You can't heal what you don't reveal. So
but
you gotta pull them off to get it.
I've heard a medical person like, "Oh, I had a cut on my hand, and I put a Band-Aid on it." No. You're gonna have to let that Band-Aid see the light of day.
It's gotta breathe.
It's gotta breathe. It's gotta be able to. It gotta be able to heal itself. And just putting a Band-Aid may protect it, but you still have to allow it to be exposed to heal it. Wow.
Go on and pray. I'm done. Look, I'm calling the end this time.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to get to this point. Thank you for allowing us to see what we need to fix. Lord, that we ask that you help and guide us in the ways to release these Band-Aids that we have, hidden hurts and problems in our lives. Allow us to be able to address them appropriately and still not hurt others as we do this. But if we do have to hurt others, allow them to be able to see that they need to address those issues also. In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name. Amen.
Wow. I didn't think we were going to get that deep so quickly.
Come on now, you know better.
I should have known.
You already know.
I should have already
I told
known.
you, I say what you want. I said, look, and I heard the amen corner. I heard a couple of. I was trying not to look over.